I want to take some time to talk about normative ethics. Normative ethics is the study of ethical action. It's the branch of philosophical ethics that investigates the set of questions that arise when considering how one ought to act, morally speaking. To ground a common understanding, I'll define ethics as a set of exogenous rules of right or proper conduct, and normative as deriving from a standard or norm, especially of behavior. So, given a norm, one attempts to determine how one ought to behave, how one should act. Just how to adequately capture the dimensions of normality is a challenge in and of itself, so we'll slide on past that for the moment. The central question of normative ethics is determining how basic moral standards are arrived at and justified. As I'll point out, this is problematic, since each of these requires the adherent to accept as true some foundational basis. Yet in each case, the foundation requires magical thinking to accept. To the adherent, the foundational underpinning makes perfect sense. To them, it seems obvious that everyone should be nice, or respectful, or fair, yet, as with religion, there's no actual reason to accept this foundation. But let's continue. Adopting the standard taxonomy for normative ethics, there are two categories, deontological and teleological. Deontology is concerned with means, standards and repeatable processes, whilst teleology is concerned with ends, with goals or purposes. Setting these to the side, there are three branches of normative ethics: virtue ethics, deontological ethics, and consequentialism. In practice, a person may identify with aspects of each of these branches, but in the end, she likely favors one over the other. Resorting to stereotyping, one may consider a philosopher to be driven by virtue, a soldier by duty, and an athlete by consequences. Let's continue. Let's take each of these in turn, starting with virtue. Virtue is a quality considered to be morally good or desirable in a person. It's about conformity to a standard of right and avoiding wrong. It's about character. The word virtue derives from the Latin vir, which means man, so we can already get a feel from its origin what is considered right versus wrong. From vir, we get to virtus, which means strength or excellence. Of course, in the Roman tradition, strength is a male trait, so we are metaphorically transforming physical strength into strength of character, integrity. In fact, women were not originally deemed to be able to be virtuous, to have virtus. What is virtuous is not set in stone, and different cultures have different character traits they cherish. The ancient Greeks had the notion of arete, which translates into virtue or excellence in a teleological sense. They also had eudaimonia, which translates loosely into happiness or flourishing, but these are second-order aspects, as they presume side constraints as to what types of happiness are allowed. The Romans adopted and named virtue ethic. Without going too deep into the rabbit hole, the virtues in classical antiquity were prudence, courage or fortitude, temperance, and justice. For the record, the motivation to be virtuous may be either teleological or consequential. Let's continue. Deontology is about duty. It derives from the ancient Greek deon, which translates to duty or obligation. Deontology is more about means than of ends. How one follows the rules is more important than the outcome of the rules. Presumably, some outcome has been previously determined and the process is designed to achieve this outcome. Whether the desired outcome is actually achieved is not important, at least not as important as having followed procedure. Most legal systems are deontological. Neither justice, a virtue, or a fair outcome are the primary concern. That the process is repeatable is paramount. Having faith in the system itself is key. That a person enters the sorting system and comes out the other end is what matters. There may be a system to modify the process, but this too is deontological. This leaves us with consequentialism. Where deontology is about means, consequentialism is about achieving ends. It's about consequences or outcomes. Think about it as trying to optimize or maximize something, whether utility, whence utilitarianism, happiness, or contentedness. There are typically unmentioned side constraints, but an application and action leading to a better outcome is, well, better. It doesn't appear to matter that what one is optimizing is unmeasurable, or that what might be optimized at one point in time might be suboptimal at another, and it seems to be irrelevant that these individual optimizations don't need to optimize the system as a whole. This is where one might raise Pareto efficiencies and the such, but I'll spare you this for now, as this is inadequate on too many levels. To recap, virtue is about character. Adherents ignore the underlying ambivalence of what character is and how to define it. A typical defense is to argue that everybody knows what is meant by character, as well as to follow the "I know it when I see it" line of illogic. Besides having a reliance on some vague and otherwise unattainable archetype, another problem is that the notion of character relies on place and time. What might have been deemed dandy character in Victorian times might feel stilted today, at least to some. Deontology is about process, the end state being secondary. Adherents focus on playing by the rules. A problem arises when the rules lead to unacceptable outcomes, especially when judged based on character or benefit, and devolves into molding humans into automatons. Consequentialism, the first cousin of utilitarianism, is about outcome, achieving ends by any means necessary, to borrow from Malcolm X. Persons espousing this moral belief system argue that, on balance, this will leave people better off. Those arguing from the opposite position might argue that it is difficult to argue that something is objectively better when it can't even be measured in the first place. Keep in mind that these are simplified renditions of these ethical models, and nuanced derivatives exist in each. My goal is not to knock down straw men, rather it's to shed light on the primary versions. It's unlikely that I'll return any time to delve deeper into the sub-branches, but I've been wrong before. Thanks for stopping by. This YouTube channel is an extension of my blog, so feel free to visit me there too. http://philosophixblog.wordpress.com. If you liked this video, click thumbs up. I welcome any comments, agree, disagree, or otherwise. Subscribe if you want to be notified when I post new content. Bye.